For you, what would be the evaluation of where De'Aaron King needs to be physically to cut him loose for week one versus holding him back and going with somebody else in week one against Alabama?
90% or better. I think that maybe, with a sleeve or a brace or something on that knee. Yeah, but he needs to be in a range where normal activity will not exacerbate the injury. And if it's 80%, I'd save him, for another game, and I don't want the season to be over before it even starts. I don't want the 2015-16 Florida State, DeAndre Francois blew out his patella tendon in the opener against Alabama, and then nothing was the same for them. I don't want that. So, if he's in that 90% or above recovery range, again, where normal activity will not exacerbate the injury. For me, that's the thing that I've always looked at. If you're doing what you normally do in the game, and that is a thing that can continue or accelerate the injury, exacerbate it in a negative way, I don't want that. If you get high load like Boobie Miles in Friday Night Lights and they hold your leg and something like that, if it's a dirty hit like what blew Willis McGahee's knee apart, if it's something like that, that's an outside impetus. You know what I mean? That was not native to the game of football. So something like that you can't really defend against or prepare for because freak accidents are freak accidents. But if you're doing something native to, football, if you're quarterback, if you're dropping back, if you're rolling out, if you're running, if you're, planning to run and cut, which is what we know De'Aaron King does, right? So if you do something native to the actions of the game, and that's something that will continue to hurt or exacerbate the injury, I don't want him on the field. But if it's to a point where he's 90% or more healed, where he can do his normal actions, again, I'm not saying that you won't get hurt, but the injury might come from somebody hitting you or outside impetus, not just you doing what you normally do, then I think I would be okay with it.
Yeah, something that could happen to any player on the field who's 100% healthy walking out onto the field. Putting the standard aside, the standard is to win championships and to bring this program back to where it was previously. Mm-hmm. What is a reasonable yet optimistic outcome versus Alabama that you would be pleased with? The type of performance?
I mean, looking like we belong there. I would like to keep it within 14 as a result, because people are going to look at the result, the score line, not necessarily the whole process, but the process along the way. I want it to look like we belong on that field. You're not giving up 57 million tackles for loss. You're not giving up, 10 sacks like against Florida that year, which was such an outsized number, even for a very good defense, and admitting that they were a good defense and things like that. That was such an outsized number. 17 tackles for loss in the game, 10 sacks. That's just, the offensive line was so overmatched. You know what I mean? But I don't want it to be that. They might scheme us up, take us up top. They got big physical dudes. They might run over an offensive lineman for a tackle for loss. Their running back, whichever one it is that's going to be running the ball now, their quarterback, whoever it is, they're going to make positive plays. I'm not saying that there aren't going to be those. But we got to get our hits in too. You know what I mean? I don't want this to be Mike Tyson versus Peter McNeely. Ding, 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 9 seconds and it's over. I don't want it to be that. I want shades of Hearns Hagler, because if they're going to throw haymakers, God damn it, I'm going to throw haymakers too. And we're going to land a couple of those, And, I want to see that kind of a thing. I want to see, if we get knocked down, because things go wrong as they sometimes will. Maybe they got a little check left hook and all of a sudden I didn't see it coming. Woo! All right, took a knee, got knocked down. Get back up and get in there and keep swinging. Don't just cower, And I do want to see, there's a thing that a good friend of mine, I got to give him a call actually, Bud Elliott, who used to be was the founding editor for Tomahawk Nation, who's now over at 247 with CBS Sports. CBS Sports. Sorry, he always was one to point out if you're playing to win or playing not to get blown out, and it's very clear. You can clearly see it. It's by the play calling decisions. It's by the punting versus going for it decision. There's things where you can tell I'm trying to win, be competitive, or I'm trying to keep this score on the scoreboard respectable for my job prospects, the job prospects of those on my staff, and recruiting going forward. Even if we lose, I want it to be where we're playing to win and be competitive, not playing not to get blown out. And we've seen these games, right? Like that, let me see, 2014 FSU at FSU, I want to say. It ended up being 41-14, but it was 21-14 and a half. That's the game that Duke Johnson broke his ankle. For the first half, we had that touchdown to Allen Hurns up the sideline towards the end. It was 21-14 at halftime. All right, cool. All right. That was playing to be competitive. In the second half, without Duke Johnson, it was playing not to get blown out. And we weren't even able to do that. You know what I mean? Like the Clemson game in the ACC championship game a couple of years ago, that was a game that quickly went from playing to be competitive to playing not to get blown out, not to get 58-0 embarrassed. Because the playing to be competitive, that was the play action to Jeff Thomas that MarkRogersTV should have still thrown because he was butt naked wide open doing backflips and cartwheels through the secondary. It wasn't even through the secondary. They were gone. Gone. Didn't throw it. Okay, cool. They get up a couple touchdowns. We go to Operation Shutdown. We're slowing that tempo. We're calling different kind of plays. It still ended up 38-3, and we got those 3 points at the end, right? But if we were still going very aggressively, that could have been another 40 or 50 burger. You know what I mean? So we've seen things where playing to be close or playing to be competitive and playing not to get blown out. I want to play a competitive game. Even if we lose by 14 or 17, I want to have that, not Operation Shutdown for the narrative or optics kind of a thing. That for me is what I'm looking for. Absent an incredible performance that leads to us actually winning, like outright. Like that would be the number one for me, where we come out there, we hit them in the mouth. We're up 21-0 in the first quarter, like so many teams have been up against us in the last few years. I would love that, realistically, because I don't think that Alabama's going to poo the bed like that. A competitive game between 10 and 17 point or a margin of victory for Alabama, where we play competitively and showcase our pedigree throughout the game.
Nothing gets me to Twitter quicker on a football Saturday or Sunday than a coach who makes a decision that is clearly at some point in the fourth quarter. Let's say it's a 17-point game and there's 8 minutes left and it's 4th and 5 and they're at their own 28 and they need to score. Who cares how much you lose by? You have to keep possession of the ball and score to have any chance to win the game. And you're putting. I hate that.
But that right there, that's what I'm talking about. Playing to be competitive versus playing not to get blown out. Because if you don't get it and you give them the ball to 25 and they've already had a couple of long drives and you give a short field against your defense, they're going to score there. If you get another turnover, you're going to score there. All of a sudden, that 8-point game gets to be 22 or 23. And all of a sudden, the optics look different. And it's easy for us, not paid coaches, not affiliated with these teams, to say this is what it should be. But then again, there's also metrics and numbers that support things like this. Like if you're actually trying to win, it's not just that last 2-minute drive to the point. You know what I mean? Like it might be 13 and a half minutes left in the fourth quarter. I got to go now. Like right now. Or else I punt it and I give them the ball and they're going to have a 6-minute possession that probably ends with 3 or 7. And now I'm even further in the hole, and now I'm going to try to have Operation Shutdown, and I'm going to say, oh, a 13-point loss isn't that bad because we were close and they got a late score. They didn't really get a late score, but it's that kind of a thing. That right there, that kind of scenario that Mark just put up there, that's the difference between playing to win or be competitive, if you want to call it that, playing to be competitive versus playing not to get blown out. And those are two very different things that you can tell from things like that.
Much different situation, but it draws to mind the call that Bill Belichick famously made against Peyton Manning about 10 years ago, way before anybody ever thought about doing this, on like a 4th and 2 at his own 28, just didn't want Peyton Manning to get the ball back. And so they went for it. He thought Tom Brady has a better chance of converting 4th and 2 because he'll probably hit this 80-some% of the time. He completes 70% all over the place. So 4th and 2, probably an 80-some% completion percentage pass versus giving the ball to Peyton Manning with 2 minutes left.
And is it a tough call? Yeah. Will lots of guys do it? No, but that's the difference between, you know, playing. I mean, well, obviously they were in the lead, so you're trying to.
And the security of being Bill Belichick.
Well, I mean, you have that, you know, cachet as well, you know, but like, it's a tough choice. Sometimes you got to make tough choices if you want to win, bro. That's just how the way sports works.
Yeah, I am often fascinated by the, from both the coaching standpoint and the player standpoint, that fine line between playing scared and being in a place where you take calculated risks, not foolish risks, but playing loose, whether you're making the calls from the sideline or actually executing them on the field, but playing loose, coaching loose, and not scared, but still being wise at the same time. It can be a fine line.
I mean, it's like if you're a basketball player or anything, you know, I remember when I was playing and I had, you know, there were a couple of teams I played on that were really, really good. And we had practiced all kinds of things. And our coach said, hey, if you have it to throw a behind the back pass in this situation, look, we worked on that skill. So it wasn't just, oh, I'm just trying to do something. We worked on that skill. So if we took it out of the bag at that time, cool. If it's a 2-point game on the road at Country Day, I better not see no goddamn behind the back passes. So, I mean, there's a time and a place for everything. You know what I mean? But it's one of those things, man. You just got to, you have to be authentic to yourself, and there are some who are way more risk averse than others. But yeah, I want to see the Miami Hurricanes play a competitive game, even if we aren't able to execute all the time because of the excellence on the other side of the ball. That kind of performance is what I would like to see against Alabama. Hopefully for a win, but more realistically with a competitive, respectable looking loss than, you know, trying not to get blown out or actually getting blown out.